3 Muslim commanders died in front of him in the same battle. The army he was left with had no leader, no plan, and an enemy outnumbering them 10 to 1. What he did in the next few hours earned him a title no other human being in Islamic history has ever received. This is the story of Khalid ibn al-Walid, the man the Prophet Muhammad called the Sword of Allah. Long before that title, Khalid was one of the most feared cavalry commanders in Mecca, and one of Islam's fiercest opponents. At the Battle of Uhud, it was Khalid who spotted the gap the Muslim archers had left when they broke ranks. He led a cavalry charge through that gap, turned a Muslim victory into near disaster, and became known across Arabia for it. For years, Khalid fought against the Prophet, not for him. But something in Khalid kept unsettling him. He'd fought the Muslims for years and watched them survive battle after battle they had no right to win. After the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when tensions eased and he had time to actually think, Khalid made his decision. He rode to Medina and accepted Islam. The Prophet welcomed him, not as a suspect, not as a former enemy to be watched, but fully, immediately, as one of his own. His first real test as a Muslim came almost immediately at the Battle of Mu'tah. A Muslim force of around 3,000 marched north and found themselves facing a Byzantine army many times their size. One by one, the 3 commanders leading the Muslim army, Zayd ibn Haritha, Jafar ibn Abi Talib, and Abdullah ibn Rawaha, were killed in the fighting. The army was on the edge of collapse, with no one left in command. In that moment, the soldiers turned to Khalid. He took the banner. And instead of a desperate, disorganized retreat that would have ended in slaughter, Khalid restructured the army mid-battle, shifted formations to make the Muslim force look larger than it was, and executed a fighting withdrawal that pulled the entire army out alive. He broke 9 swords in his own hand that day from how hard he fought to make it happen. When news reached the Prophet in Medina, he told the companions exactly what had happened before any messenger could, describing the battle as if he'd watched it. And he said of Khalid, "He is one of the swords of Allah, unsheathed against the disbelievers." From that day, Khalid ibn al-Walid became known as Sayfullah, the Sword of Allah. That was only the beginning. Khalid went on to lead the Muslim army through the conquest of Mecca, the Battle of Hanaan, the Ridda Wars that followed the Prophet's death, and major victories across Iraq and Syria, including Yarmouk, one of the most decisive battles in history. Historical accounts describe him fighting in over 100 battles and never once losing. Eventually, the Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab removed Khalid from command, not for any failure, but because Umar was concerned that people had started attributing victories to Khalid's genius instead of to Allah. Khalid didn't argue, didn't rebel, didn't walk away from Islam in protest. He kept fighting as an ordinary soldier under the men who replaced him. Years later, he died at home, from illness, on his bed, not on a battlefield. It's said he wept at the end, not from fear, but because after a life spent seeking martyrdom in over 100 battles, he was dying quietly instead. A man who spent his life as a sword was laid to rest like anyone else, undefeated in every battle he ever led, given a title no one else in Islamic history has ever carried. And in the end, he let it go without complaint the moment he was asked to. That's the part of Khalid's story people remember least, and maybe the part worth remembering most. If this story moved you, subscribe to Tarikh Knowledge TV. There's a lot more of this history worth knowing. And tell me in the comments, which part of Khalid's story surprised you most?